Welcome to Lunch with Legacy Leaders, a weekly talk show with local and national thought leaders on issues impacting the Black community. Now introducing our host, Miss Anne Marie Sorrell.
Good afternoon and welcome to another episode of Lunch with Legacy Leaders. I am your host, Anne Marie Sorrell, President and CEO of the Mosaic Group. Thank you so much for taking time out of your afternoon to join us during your lunch break for some important updates, news, and of course, bringing you spectacular leaders from our community. Before we get started with this broadcast, I'd like to thank our sponsors who make this broadcast possible. Broward Health, AARP, the Solid Waste Authority of Palm Beach County, and the African American Black Alzheimer's Disease Initiative at the John P. Hussman Institute for Human Genomics, University of Miami Miller School of Medicine. If you or someone you know are experiencing loss of memory or memory problems, please contact their research team for more information at 877-686-6444. Today, as always, we have a very special guest. We have the Honorable Harold F. Pryor, Broward County State Attorney for Florida 17th Judicial Circuit Court. Welcome, State Attorney Pryor.
How you doing, Emily? Thank you so much for having me.
I'm great. Thank you for being here with us. Wow, you have had a tremendous run. I am so excited for you. Congratulations. I know I'm several months overdue, but congratulations to you. And I'm going to introduce you formally to our audience by just reading a bit of your bio, if that's okay with you. Awesome. Well, Harold Pryor was elected Broward County State Attorney in November 2020. He leads a staff of 462 employees, including 213 prosecutors, whose mission is to make our community safer while working to ensure justice, equity, and fairness for everyone affected by our criminal justice system. He is the first Black state attorney in Broward County and the first Black man to be elected state attorney in Florida. Now that's an important fact right there. So congratulations to you on that. Pryor is a fifth generation Floridian. He attended and graduated from the University of Florida with a Bachelor of Arts in Political Science. Pryor's legal career includes experience as a prosecutor, a civil attorney in the private sector, and a corporate lawyer. He started his legal career serving as a Broward Assistant State Attorney, prosecuting serious criminal offenses in the felony trial unit. He also worked for prominent law firms and for telecommunications companies specializing in business litigation, the Federal Communications Commission, consumer-related issues, employment law, and commercial transactions. He earned a reputation as a skilled trial lawyer who is tough but fair. He believes in compassion for victims. Pryor strongly believes that securing a guilty verdict should never be a prosecutor's primary goal, but the pursuit of truth, fairness, and justice should be paramount. Pryor is the past president of the historic T.J. Reddick Bar Association, Broward County's Black Bar Association. Pryor also campaigned to persuade the Broward County Commission to rename the north wing of the courthouse in honor of the late Judge T.J. Reddick Jr., the first Black attorney to open an office and practice in Broward County and the county's first Black judge. Pryor's passions include mentoring young people and attorneys. He's an active member of the Broward County Bar Association, a volunteer with the Broward County School District, My Future Is Now program, and a member of the Urban League of Broward County's Young Professionals Network. As the county's chief law enforcement officer and official, Pryor is committed to seeking justice and standing up for what is right. He is committed to making sensible reforms to our criminal justice system and is dedicated to serving the people of Broward County and making our community safer and better for all who live, work, and play in Broward County. So thank you again for being with us, State Attorney Pryor.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I didn't pay you to do that introduction. So contrary to popular belief, I guess.
Right. No payments accepted here. So let's just jump right into it. I'm sure the last several months has been very interesting for you with everything that's going on prior to the election and now after the election. So please share your experience thus far as being the first Black man to be elected state attorney in Florida. And then, of course, Broward County, of course.
Well, thank you. First and foremost, thank you, Anne-Marie, for having me. Thank you for sharing your platform. Thank you to Legacy and Miami Media Group, LLC, for having me and for all the great work that you all do. I'll say this, being the first of anything isn't easy. But I will say this, as one of my good friends has told me, we're truly standing on the shoulders of our giants. We are truly our ancestors' wildest dreams. And they've endured much more than we could have ever imagined and anything that we could experience right now. And so with that, that gives me the strength to go forward. And so any little thing or any little obstacle that I'm dealing with is nothing compared to what our ancestors had to fight for. We are making transition. We're past 100 days in. We're about 100 and odd days in office. I'm proud with some of the changes that we're initiating. But what I tell everyone, Anne-Marie, is that whenever you elect us and move us into office, it's going to take time for us to make the changes that we need to make. I always allude to the fact that it took about 300, 400 plus years for the systems that have been in place to really confine us and keep us as being seen as equals. I don't think it's going to take us 300 years to change it, but it's going to take us some time to change it. And I know we're going to do it. And I truly believe that some of the work that we've done now, we're inching a step closer to initiating some of these changes that the people of Broward and South Florida want.
Absolutely. So let's just kind of dive into some of the most recent challenges. And our topic of focus today is, why is it so difficult to prosecute law enforcement? There are dozens of high-profile cases that involve law enforcement and the deaths of our Black brothers and sisters. Hundreds that we're not even talking about or never even hear about, right? And the officers are not prosecuted, except recently, of course, in the George Floyd case. So why is it so difficult to prosecute law enforcement officers in these cases?
Well, it's so many different layers to it. That's a thoughtful question. One layer to it is it's just traditionally it's been hard to prosecute law enforcement officers because of this aura, right? Traditionally, institutions in this country, our society, not people of color, but people in the society, if you have on a badge, they just seem to side on them, right, with them rather in these particular situations. Another aspect of it is Black prosecutors matter. Black prosecutors matter. Diverse prosecutors matter, not just Black, but Hispanics, women, members of our LGBTQ plus communities, Asian Americans. We need a diverse prosecutorial workforce to enforce some of these laws, to bring nuance and to look at these cases in a different light. I'll point to the Derek Chauvin trial in Minnesota. The prosecutorial team, there's one African-American that was a part of the prosecutorial team. The Attorney General, obviously, Keith Ellison is a Black man. And it makes a difference. I always tell law students, people that are trying to go in the law field, we have more than enough public defenders, but we need more prosecutors. We need more law enforcement officers that can sit in these rooms and bring a different perspective. Because there were many times when I was a young prosecutor starting out, I was happy and I thank God every day when I would drive home that he would allow me to be in this office, because I was often sometimes the voice of reason in certain situations. And it was because maybe there was malicious intent. It's just there was no exposure to our communities. Many of the people that were making these filing decisions against minorities didn't understand the situations, couldn't read between the lines. And so I think that's part of the reason as well. But also, look, let's just be honest. We have a criminal justice system and institutions in this country that have been traditionally stacked against people of color and poor folk. And so how do you change that? We have to change the mindset. We need to have more robust, implicit and biased training, not just in law enforcement agencies, but prosecutorial officers. And yes, public defender's office, because just because someone represents you doesn't mean they actually like you or respect you. And so we need that in our education systems as well. The reason why too is just with the grand juries. We have a grand jury issue. As we know, the grand juries are sealed. The proceedings are sealed. And traditionally, many prosecutorial offices around the country decide to send all police-related misconduct cases to grand juries rather than make a filing decision that could be open to public records requests once you finalize a decision. My office is moving to a more hybrid solution. So we'll submit certain cases to grand juries, but some we will make a decision where we will be subject to certain requests once the investigation is done. We need to restore some level of transparency and openness in the criminal justice aspect. I do admit that, and I'll be the first to admit that and say that to any crowd. But also, there is some benefits to the grand jury. But you need prosecutors that will vigorously present cases to a grand jury just as they would a regular person on the street. It shouldn't matter if a person has a badge on. You should be treated like anyone else. And so it goes to the statement. It says that a prosecutor can indict a ham sandwich. Well, how come that isn't the case when we're dealing with law enforcement officers? I think the reason why is because prosecutors around the country have been less than zealous when presenting cases involving law enforcement officers to grand juries, and I want to change that.
Absolutely. Now, let me ask you another question on that front, from one elected official to another, because do you believe that in some of these cases, especially where you don't have a Black state attorney or attorney general, do you believe that politics may play a role in how law enforcement officers are prosecuted, especially when you have, police benevolent associations that have very high influence in how politicians are elected? They raise money for different politicians. So do you think that politics influence these decisions as well, especially if they don't go before a grand jury or in the effort to push them before a grand jury?
Well, Marie, I'll tell you that it shouldn't. I truly believe that we shouldn't let politics play any decision-making process that we have as prosecutors, because we swore an oath to uphold the Constitution and the laws of our respective states and jurisdictions. It's unfortunate that it may seem that in certain other jurisdictions that politics plays a role, and it shouldn't. You should be able to look at those cases on an individual, independent basis and make a correct decision based on the law. I say this all the time. There are going to be situations that are going to be presented to me in my term as state attorney. And I'll tell you, the moment I decide to bring charges against a law enforcement officer, I'll be there standing up to the police unions and law enforcement officers to explain to them why I brought charges against that law enforcement officer and why I'm doing it pursuant to the law. But in the event that I don't bring charges against a law enforcement officer, I'm willing to come back here to Legacy. I'm willing to go back to our community and explain to community members why I decided not to bring those charges based on the law. And it's going to happen. It's inevitable. But you need prosecutors, you need state attorneys, you need elected officials that aren't afraid to be held accountable, aren't afraid to explain the law and speak to our communities and keep them informed, and having some level of transparency and openness in the process, so we can restore or generate some level of trust in the criminal justice system. But it's twofold, right? I can't sit here and promise that I'm going to bring charges against every law enforcement officer. I don't think any prosecutor in around the country or the state can say that. But I can be confident in saying that whatever a case is brought before me, I will rely on the law and I will make the appropriate decision based on the law. And that's how it should be.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I just want to add one more question to that on that note, and this will put you on the spot a little bit, so I apologize in advance. Again, from an elected standpoint, do you believe that certain elected positions, mayor, because most mayors in most cities that are strong mayors appoint their police chief, sheriff, state attorney, do you believe that certain elected positions should waive the support of police unions and associations because of the possible conflict? I just want to get your thoughts on that.
That's a tough question. And I'll tell you this. I don't know. And I don't think, and honestly, I think it could go twofold. Should a politician receive donations from certain activist groups that are anti-police? I don't know. That's the question, because then that goes on that, because then you could say, well, because he or she's receiving funds from an activist group that is anti-police, right? Then we can say that this person can't be fair, that this person is not going to make fair assessments, right? Unfortunately, in the political system, money plays a role in politics and getting people elected. I can only speak for myself. I didn't accept any money from police unions, and it wasn't because I hate police unions or I dislike them. It was I really wanted to be seen as an independent actor, and I really wanted to convey the message that doesn't matter if you have a badge on, doesn't matter if you don't have a badge on. I'm going to look at the law and I'm going to make the correct assessment based on the law, and I'm going to hold you accountable, irrespective of your position or status in society. But just to say that I respect law enforcement, I work with law enforcement officers every day, and I look forward to continuing to work with them because we need law enforcement to help us in our task. And I think we just need to develop better prosecutorial practices, and we need to develop better law enforcement practices. And that's a great question. I don't know, because I think there's an argument can be made for both sides.
Absolutely.
Me individually and what I've done and how I believe, and I just chose not to receive funds from police unions.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I definitely respect your choice as well as your insight on that question. I know it's a tough place for elected officials and those seeking office who wants that support. And again, it's not to be anti-police or anti-law enforcement, but sometimes I do believe in certain situations and other jurisdictions, it does pose a conflict over, when situations arise. So I definitely want to just bring that to the forefront in this conversation. Now, we've had some recent cases, of course, the Derek Chauvin case. We know the verdict of that. We don't know what the final outcome is going to be. And then you have these other right during the trial and right after in the recent weeks, from Dante Wright to Ma'Khia Bryant. And I think we had a few others this past couple of weeks. What are your thoughts? And do you think that these cases are going to get a similar outcome to the Derek Chauvin case, or are they going to go unprosecuted again?
I'll tell you this, I'm exhausted when it comes to seeing all of these incidences or occurrences, and it's getting to the point to where I think I'm suffering, and I've had a lot of friends who I kind of have a support group where we talk about it. I think we as a Black people, Black men, Black women, I think we have some form of PTSD when it comes to these type of issues that occur. I'll give you a classic example. In the middle of my campaign, at the height of my campaign, Ahmaud Arbery, the situation happened in February, I believe. And it took me 5 days to look at the video. And when I saw the video, I had chills. I'll admit that I had tears. It was devastating because you had a kid that was just going for a Sunday afternoon run, and then he gets killed because he was just going for a job, right?
Yeah.
And then a couple months later, you have George Floyd, right? And I had a friend, an ally, a really good friend of mine, a white ally, text me and he said, "Harold, I know a lot's been going on. I feel as an ally, as a friend, that someone cares about you. How do you feel?" And my response was, if I was a single man, not married, I don't have a son. At the time, I had a son that just turned 3. I would probably just be angered. I'd be angry. I'd be outraged. And I said, now, being married, having a Black wife, being married, having a young Black son, I admit in that moment of transparency that I was afraid, fear. First time in my life that I ever feared anything, because it wasn't fear for my life. I was fine with that. I feared for my son's life, thinking that we were in a world that was getting better, right? Post Jim Crow era, right? Post Civil Rights era. You think things getting better, and they haven't gotten better. And fast forward to now, it just seems like these type of occurrences are increasing, right? It's becoming the norm. And so what's going on? What's the problem? Well, the issue is we need to totally reform our systems. We need to reform our criminal justice system. We need to reform our law enforcement system and how we police. And we need to reform how we do our jobs as prosecutors and holding law enforcement officers accountable. because we know it's an issue and we need to point to the issue, we need to address it and take the appropriate actions to fix it. And seeing these occurrences, we learn we have so much more to do and we have such a long way to go. It seems like we'll take 5 steps forward and we'll take another 10, 15, 20 steps back. And I think the start is we can't give up, we can't let up. And I think the start is to elect people that understand our communities. They don't have to be Black, they don't have to look like us, but they have to understand our plight. They have to understand that we have institutions, not just the criminal justice system, but our education, economic institutions. We need to change those, and we need to understand that these systems haven't been for us, and we need to make them more equitable and fair for all people.
Absolutely. So on that same note, I know you're committed to making sensible reforms to our criminal justice system. Can you, and I know we've talked, not we personally, you and I, but over the years, we've, as a community come up with, the body cams and making sure every law enforcement agency enforces that policy. We've talked about getting citizen review boards together and so many other things. What are some of your solutions that you believe can be put in place short-term and long-term to really move the needle on what we're experiencing?
Well, I from the law enforcement aspect, it's not a new concept, but it's a concept that just needs to be perfected. And I think we can push it. Is better community policing. Far too often, our law enforcement officers, I don't care where you are, many of them don't even live or even have some form of a connection to the jurisdictions or the communities that they're policing. We need to change that. I think legislatively, we need to change how we're giving money to these agencies. We need to hire more people from these communities that grew up in these communities. They need to live there. You need to tie funding to that. And if you don't have 85% or 90% of your law enforcement agencies of people that actually come from those communities or make up the demographics of that community, then you don't get certain funding, right? I think that should be a big legislative push with reference to law enforcement agencies. Next, for the prosecutorial aspect, my field that I can speak about is creating better and stronger transparency processes and programs to keep the community informed. So you know what I'm doing, so you can hold me accountable, hold my office accountable. And so one thing that I've done, the steps that I've taken in my first 100 days was to join the FIU's prosecutorial performance indicator project. And what that does is creates a dashboard that we would display on our website, and it will allow the community to look at my office and how we're prosecuting certain offenses across demographical lines. So, for example, if I'm charging someone with aggravated battery, you can look and say, okay, how is Harold Pryor's office prosecuting those type of cases across demographical lines? Is he treating white people differently than Black folk? Is he treating members of our LGBTQ plus community different than other folk? And you can look at that in real time and see how we're doing that. And also we can look across geographical lines. And so my goal is to post that quarterly or monthly. And so the community would have access to that to see how we're doing that. So that's one step. One step is just increasing transparency, openness, so people understand what we're doing and know that we're trying to create a just and equitable system for all people. But also finally, with regard to that, is to actually for me to be out in the community, to have task force with actual community members, not the people that donate to campaigns, not the people that you may see every day, but the people that are actually in the community doing the work. There's so many people that are actually doing the work that aren't giving input, or not allowed to give input into some of the policy changes. And so my goal is to actually bring community in so we can actually have a collaborative effort in initiating some of these criminal justice reforms.
Wow, I love it. Well, definitely looking forward to these solutions that you're implementing. So speaking of community, typically our community response when we have different issues arise, such as the ones that we've discussed here in this program, we go to the streets. We take it to the streets, we protest, and that's a way for our voices to be heard. Well, Governor DeSantis, as we know and have learned, recently signed an anti-protester bill into law. And I personally see it as an effort to silence citizens in the need of speaking up and exercising our freedom of speech. I wanted to get your thoughts on this new law.
Yeah, I've been outspoken on it. My first statement I ever gave on it was in December at a Broward delegation meeting, and I think it has some constitutional issues. It's going to have to. There's some constitutional hurdles that he's going to have to clear. That this law is going to have to clear. I think it definitely is going to have some constitutional issues with reference to the First Amendment, the people's right to assemble, freedom of speech. I think it's going to affect that. I also think it could affect certain due process issues with the Fifth Amendment and the 14th Amendment. And those are issues that I think, quite frankly, are going to have to be litigated because, it went through the legislative phase. Many people protested. Many people spoke out against it, like myself. Many of our Democratic caucus members in the House and the Senate in Florida spoke out against it. And so now it was passed. It was signed into law. And so what's the next avenue? And I think the next avenue, obviously, is the legal realm. I do believe, and I'm hearing that lawsuits will be filed. And I think it just poses a significant threat to constitutional rights of individuals who may be exercising their constitutional right to protest. But also, given with this particular law, it puts law enforcement, in my opinion, I think it makes their jobs a lot tougher. And I don't think they're major fans of it. I mean, after discussions with the sheriff, after discussions with various law enforcement officers throughout Broward County, there's about 18 individual law enforcement agencies. Many of them see the law as problematic in the sense that it's going to be hard to enforce. And it's going to put them in a tougher situation. And actually, this law could potentially escalate situations rather than de-escalate situations. And so that's my fear. And I think that's many law enforcement officials' fears with regarding to House Bill 1 that was just signed into law. So I think it has some legal hurdles that it's going to have to clear. I think it's going to be tough for the governor and his lawyers to overcome some of those legal battles that I foresee is going to happen. I'm monitoring it closely. Look, as state attorney, I'm sworn to uphold the laws of the state of Florida and the Constitution. However, I am given discretion as the state attorney to make the appropriate valid decisions based on the law. And I'm going to make the right decision based on what's right for our constituencies and understanding that we need to have a criminal justice system that's fair and equitable in every aspect, no matter what the law is. And so there are laws out there that we prosecute. There are laws out there that we don't prosecute. We look at the facts and we make the appropriate decision. But I know that given the hurdles that this law is going to have to overcome, it's going to be tough for law enforcement officers and prosecutors around the country, or around the state, to enforce.
Well, you're right about around the country because other states are looking to, other Republican states in particular, are looking to impose the same type of laws. Now, when a bill gets to that point, just for our audience, I know that when it's going through the legislative process, we as citizens can call and write and reach out to our state legislators to, vote no on certain laws as they're going through their process. But once it has been signed by the governor, it goes into now this legal state where lawsuits will be filed. Is there any recourse for citizens to get involved?
Well, I think it's going to be, I think there are going to be quite a few lawsuits going to be filed against the governor and the executive branch with reference to this law. There's ways, many citizens have standing. If you want to join a lawsuit, there are many organizations out there that I know that are looking at it, monitoring it closely. You can talk to the NAACP, you can talk to the ACLU, Dream Defenders, many of the other great organizations that are doing the work, New Florida Majority. You can reach out to them. I'm pretty sure they're going to probably look for litigants to bring a challenge to this. I think a lot of people have standing. So please call those organizations, find out, see how you can be involved. And once it goes to the appellate realm, which I think it is, it's going to go to the appellate realm because it's going to be a highly litigated issue. People can file amicus briefs who have interest in this as friends of the court. And so, yeah, I encourage everyone to please reach out to the NAACP. If you're in Broward County, reach out to our president, Marsha Ellison. Reach out to New Florida Majority, Dwight Bullard, that crew, everyone else. I'm sure they'll put you in the right direct or point you in the right direction if you disagree with a particular law, especially this particular law.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for that, because I think oftentimes as citizens, we don't know where our involvement starts sometime or even stop. Like, okay, well, it went to law, so is it a done deal? We don't know. So thank you so much for pointing us in a direction of where we can go to further support the dismantling of this law that is infringing on our rights here. So, what I want to say is, how else, from your office standpoint, what else can our community do to get involved to support your transparency, of course? Thank you for being transparent. What can we do to get involved in different issues? How does the community get involved with your office? How do they reach you? Can you just let us know that information?
No, that's great. Look, you alluded to this point earlier. We've been protesting for a long time. And now in Broward County, I can speak for Broward County. I can't speak for Miami-Dade, but I can say Broward County, we've made some significant advances as far as our constitutional officers reflecting the community. And so we've gotten that step. It's not over, right? So we protested. We've been involved in the electoral process. We got the people in that we wanted in as a community, even though there were outside groups that tried to pump millions of dollars in our races to get people that they wanted in, but the community didn't want that. We have our people in. So now what do? Now you have our contact information. So now it's time to sit at the table, and it's time for us to start working some of these issues out. It's time for us to develop policy that works for our communities, that's for us, by us. And I think now is the time. It's an exciting time to be in Broward County. I can't speak for anyone else or anywhere else, but it's an exciting time to be in Broward County where I can have an open line of discussion with the public defender. I can speak with the sheriff. I can speak with the supervisor of elections. I can speak with the clerk of the courts. We all have a great working relationship, and there's some level of synergy there because we all know that this is a magical time. Many people, not only in this state, but around the country are watching us, and they want us to get it right. So ways that everyone can get in touch with me, go to our website. It's browardsao.com. You can also reach us by Twitter, Broward SAO. You can look us up on Instagram, Broward State Attorney. And if you DM me, we'll respond. If you send direct messages to our Facebook site, we'll respond. We're very responsive in that. We're a tech savvy office. I'm a millennial, so I'm checking those as well. So please, those are ways that you can reach out to us. We're coming up with various initiatives, community-based initiatives where we're trying to get community members involved. I'll be announcing that in the coming months. And so it will be various task force ranging from LGBTQ plus issues, but also it falls into our human rights issues, hate crimes issues that affect not only members of our LGBTQ plus communities, but also members of our Hispanic community, members of our Jewish community, and anti-Semitism has gone up, and also our Asian Pacific community as well. And so there's various other task force that I'm going to be developing that I actually want community members to be in, not the bigwigs, the people that are there every day living the experience. And so that is one way. Another way that you can get involved, and we want to get input from the community to have an open and transparent office.
Awesome. That is awesome. That's news to my ears. And I'm sure those who are tuned in would love to also get involved. And I'm glad that, you're definitely not only being transparent, but being very inclusive with your approach with the various communities that we have. I know Broward County is one of the most diverse counties in our state. I think it may actually be the most diverse county in our state. So kudos to you for being very inclusive, very transparent, and very community and people focused with your approach in these short months. And I can't wait to see what you'll be doing over the next several years in your office. we could talk all afternoon, but I want to be mindful of your time. So with that being said, do you have one takeaway or golden nugget that you would like to leave with our audience?
Well, I just want to leave with the office, given in light the passing of my mentor and our patriarch here in Broward County, Congressman Alcee Hastings. I was always inspired by him because he wasn't afraid of anything. That man wasn't afraid of a fight. And he always would say to me and many others, these seats, these positions of power that the people put you in, to quote, these aren't your damn positions or seats. These are the people's seats. And so you shouldn't sit there thinking that you own it and that it's yours. And so my takeaway from that sage advice from Congressman Hastings was that you, the people, put me here. And so I want you to hold me accountable. I want you to keep me honest and constantly challenge me, constantly push me to be better, to do better. And if I'm not doing my job and you think I'm not upholding my end of the bargain, by all means, vote me out and let's put somebody in here that can do it. But I truly believe that I am the person for that. I'm fighting every day, working every way to do that. And with that, you have to have openness, honesty, transparency, and you have to have a collaborative office. And that's what I want. And so that's my takeaway. That's the thing that I want to impart and leave with everyone, that whoever you put in these offices, I don't care who it is, we don't own it. You own it. It's your positions of power. You're putting us there. You vote us in there. So it's time for you to hold us accountable. Don't be shy. Reach out. Talk to me. Let me know so we can be better, because it's only better for the community as a whole.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for those words. I think those are words that every elected official should live by, and may God rest Congressman Alcee Hastings. So his work here was absolutely amazing. I had an opportunity to meet him when I was in high school for the first time, when I went to Washington, D.C. So an amazing soul and spirit, definitely will be missed but not forgotten. Thank you again, Honorable State Attorney Harold Pryor, for sharing this moment with us today and sharing all these nuggets and information. Everyone who's listening, please make sure you share this video. I just have a few quick announcements, so stay with me, State Attorney Pryor. I want to thank our sponsors again, Broward Health, AARP, the Solid Waste Authority of Palm Beach County, and the African American Black Alzheimer's Disease Initiative at the John P. Hussman Institute for Human Genomics, University of Miami Miller School of Medicine. If you have not done so already, I hope you have. Please check out the 2021 Most Powerful and Influential Black Business Leaders in South Florida at miamediagrp.com. Also, please remember to tune into our show, So, hosted by Nikki Jellin, every Wednesday evening at 7 p.m. as we disseminate intellectual entertainment on fashion, arts and culture, relationships, mental health, and food in South Florida. Remember to mark your calendars, also share this video, and of course, join us next Thursday at noon. Thank you again.